Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Lovett-Mankeety. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hi, everyone, our amazing, loyal listeners. Welcome to a new week for the Empire Building podcast, where it's all about building that empire. And of course, we always remember that big life along the way. And I'm excited today because it is Tiffany and Sarah this week talking about something I'm super passionate about. But I'm super excited to be with you guys this week and focus on building those empires.
It's going to be a great episode. You have 2 empire builders whose core value includes growth. And so we are super excited to talk to you about growth and how to ensure that you are growing and what to do if you feel like you aren't.
I'm excited about this topic because, as Tiffany said, we share that personal core value of growth. And when that is a core value of yours, and I would think that a lot of our listeners like growth, because just the title of our podcast alone attracts people that like growth. And when you are someone that wants growth, boy, can it feel discouraging when certain parts of your life, certain parts of your business are not growing. And I have recently been in that position for the first time in my career. And, I've been in the real estate business now almost 2 decades. And year over year, we grew in families served up until this last year. And it's been hard. It's been emotional for me. It has been discouraging. I've struggled with self-doubt and whether or not I'm the right leader and all of those things, because growth to me is so important. And so many times, empire building, we keep score off of our business growth. And so it's been hard for me. And this episode sort of is coming from that place. What do you do when you're in that position of your business, or maybe that relationship you have, or you're not growing in your health, or, whatever aspect of your life you're not growing, what do you do? And so that's sort of the foundation of why we're talking about this today, is our own personal stories of discouragement when we're not growing and what we do about it. What do we do? Because Empower Home is now growing again. And it's because of these 4 things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that. And as people who value growth, it's easiest to see growth in the places where you're measuring growth. And for a lot of us, business is probably maybe one of the only places that you have literal numbers you're looking at, because most of the time your relationships, you're not quantifying that in any way. You don't have a tracker for your marriage health or whatever. You might have it in your health, but I know from an empire builder standpoint, we very often, if the business is not looking great in whatever thing is important to us, so for those of us who want growth, if it is not growing, we think the whole empire is crumbling, even if it's just one piece of it. And so we're gonna target on a few different areas of your life that you could be experiencing growth, but just know that that's very normal for, if your business does not grow, you to feel like something is wrong with you, even if there's other things in your life that you are growing. Without an intentional, holistic look, the business can very easily overwhelm our sensibility of who we are, our worthiness, our identity, what we put out in the world, and all of that. And so, yeah, just like Sarah said, we are speaking from experience. I remember the first year that my business did not grow by 25%, because I was used to extreme growth. And it was like the floor went out from under me. Who am I? I thought this was who I was as a business owner. So that's why we've made this episode for you. You're not alone.
Yes.
And what do you do when that happens to you?
Yep. So today we're going to talk about 4 Ps. So there are 4 Ps that are sort of your formula for growth. So if you know you're determined to grow and or maybe you have stopped growing like we experienced, what do you do to get back to growth? Okay, so there's 4 Ps, okay? So we're going to talk about people, process, practice, and persistency. Okay, so those are the 4 Ps: people, process, practice, and persistency.
Great. So let's jump into people. Let's start there. So at the most basic level, we all believe who you surround yourself with matters. And that can be the people in your world. That can also be the people in your business. I want us to start talking first about the voices we allow in our world, in the greater, like our greater empire. Not just who do you hire, but who are you spending most of your time with? That can have such an impact on what you value, what you think about, and the results that you get. Have you seen that, Sarah, in your life?
Yeah, I mean, so when I had that moment, like about 6-7 months ago, and I was just so down, so discouraged, like so probably the most like self-doubting in my leadership and in my business that I've ever been, honestly. So I really looked back and I was like, okay, what was I doing all of these years that I was growing? Like, what was I doing? And one of the things that I did consistently is every single year we would set a goal for the business. And I would then find the people that are doing the goal. So like, let's say we were going from 200 home sales and we were going to serve 250 home sales. I would go on a hunt for the people, the businesses that served last year 250 home sales. And I would befriend them. And I would always come from value. Like, I would look at my business, what value can I provide them? Because yes, they're ahead of me, or yes, their business is bigger than me. And everyone can learn from everyone, no matter where your business level is. Like I learn the most a lot of times with brand new realtors than I do with even like huge empire builders. Okay. But I think as the leader, as the business owner, you do want to surround yourself with people that are doing what you're trying to accomplish. And so it hit me when I was having my white space and thinking about it. It hit me, well, I've stopped doing that. Like I've stopped looking ahead, finding people, finding business leaders that are where our goal is going to be for 2025. And so it was like a big aha moment for me. Like, okay, I need to get in some rooms. I need to have some conversations with business owners. Like we've sort of like stayed around 30 million in revenue, like right at 30 million in revenue for the last couple of years. Okay, well, I need to be in rooms with leaders that are doing 40 million in revenue. And I need to find what are they doing that got their business from 30 million to 40 million. But I realized I changed. Like I changed my strategy. I stopped being very intentional about who I'm surrounding myself with. And so that's the first thing is like, look at the people and are you surrounding yourself by people that can help you actually get to where you want to go?
Well, and one of the things that I looked at when I stunted was out of my industry. I wanted to align myself and surround myself with people who had the same values and that were succeeding at or above the level that I was in. So I didn't so much care to find somebody who had sold 250 homes. I wanted someone with the same level of personnel, values, and all of that, because I think sometimes we can get so siloed in this is what a successful person does in this industry. And once I broke through that and had some other voices from other ways of thinking that aligned with my values, that helped me. So yeah, who are you listening to?
Yes.
Who are you spending time with? Who are you learning from? And Sarah, I think probably that became hard for you to find. Like it's easy for me. I could go track down somebody who's doing 250 deals and, but 30 million in revenue, like that's a different level. And so it became hard. And we'll talk about that later. But often when things become hard or it's not easy to succeed at them anymore, we kind of shy away from it. And so I love that you recognized it and then you did the work to find those people.
Yep. No, it's a good reminder. We just got back from Her Best Life Empire Circle retreat that we do. And we do a quarterly event with our Empire Circle every single quarter. And one of the things that we do at Empire Circle is we have these things called Build Hers. And it's really like focuses of growth. And one of our Build Hers is a business Build Her. And me and Wendy are co-leading that together. And it was our first sort of session this past weekend. And I was a little bit nervous because Wendy wanted us to share our journey of business building. And I was a little bit nervous going in because I'm like, well, I don't want it to be about us. Like, this isn't supposed to be about us. And I'm like, okay, let's be careful here. I don't want it to be about us. Afterwards, I started asking everyone that attended the Business Build Her, what was your favorite part of that hour and a half we had together? And every single person said, when we saw the path that you and Wendy took, it gave us clarity that we knew how to get there. And that was their favorite part. The part that I was doubting was their favorite part. And it reminded me of this. The people, that was such a gift to them. Because they now can say, okay, my next step is this is what Sarah did next. This is what Wendy did next to build their empire. And that's all I have to do is I need to follow what's the next step. And that's what happens when you get in the right room, when you surround yourself with the right people, you then have clarity to know what to do. So if you are finding yourself in a position of growth, or maybe you went backwards, right? And you're discouraged. Okay, let's first look, who are you surrounding yourself with? What rooms do you need to get in? And first look at that, because that's impacting your mindset, that's impacting your growth. And let's get in a different room. Let's get surrounded by people that will help you. Or maybe not a different room, add on a room, right? You will always get value from those that have helped you get to where you are. So don't abandon them, but you want to maybe get in an additional room. And so look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
All right, Sarah, what's the second? So we've done people, now process.
Yes. Okay. Process. So, and we wanted to keep with P's to make it memorable. But really process here has to do with your time. Okay. Your routine is going to equal the results of your business. There is no question. The people you surround yourself with and what you do with your time is going to be critical to growth. And so the second thing that I did when I found that we were just not growing is I literally looked at my calendar for the last year. And I said, I'm doing something wrong as the leader, as the empire builder. I need to look at my calendar. I need to look at my routine. I need to look at my process of my day. I must be doing something wrong. And I discovered multiple things. When you can look back at your calendar and say, okay, was I working on dollar productive activities? Was I working on making sure I'm interviewing talent every single day? Because I know that the level of the team that I have around me is going to either grow or not grow my business, right? What am I doing with my time? So the second P is your process for your time, and how you're managing your time is critical to growth.
Love that. I know that at different life stages, your schedule may need to look differently, and you can make choices in whatever time you have that will change the outcome. So I remember my normal rhythm is I like to sleep late and to stay up late. My most productive, creative work time, when I have full control of my life, which I haven't had since having kids, but when it was just Joshua and I, we would start work at 9 or 10, and then we would stop work at 6, go see friends, have dinner, come back to work, and work from 8 to midnight. And 8 to midnight was my best time to work. And then we had kids and all of that went out the window. It didn't matter anymore. But, I had never seen 5 a.m. in my life unless it was after 4. Maybe I still was awake. It wasn't a time that I got up. But when my life and my business needed me to adjust, I did that because of what Sarah just said right here, like looking at, all right, I can no longer run the rhythm that is quote unquote great for me right this season because of the season that I'm in. And so what do I need to adjust? What do I need to be willing to work into my process that maybe I didn't have before? That's also when I started working out. Like I never worked out before that. And so like adding some things in to your process that made me more energized. It made me more capable of doing what I needed to do. And it just meant that I had to wake up a little bit earlier for a season. So it's not just what are you doing, but when are you doing it and how are you doing it that you look at when you reflect back on your calendar and your process that you have in place for growth.
I think the how, what Tiffany just said, is gold there, because also with process, there's this philosophy that Gary Keller wrote called E to P. So it's entrepreneurial to purposeful. And it's when you hit the ceiling, it's sort of what we're talking about right now. It's like you've hit a ceiling of growth, like you've stopped growing, right? To break through, he says, it either takes an additional person, right? Or a system. And so like the how you're doing something relates to the process. So that's that second P of what Tiffany is saying is so critical. It's like, okay, so how are you doing it? How are you managing your time? How are you managing your process? Do you need a different system to ensure that you're more efficient, that you're still getting the same thing accomplished, but maybe you're doing it in a faster time? Like, so relook at the way you're doing things, because typically if you're not growing, there's something with your process, something with your time, or a system that you're lacking that you need to add that will help you break through back to growth.
Love it. Okay, so we've got people, we've done process. Now let's talk about practice. And this word may send a shiver up your back if you hated having to practice your violin or your piano or, whatever that thing was in your life. But practice growth. Practice the skills that you need for growth. And so I want to hit this two ways. I want to start with practicing growth because I actually think this is something that high achievers struggle with. And Adam Grant actually wrote a book called Hidden Potential where he talks about the people who will break through are the people who are willing to be bad at something long enough to be good, like to get good. And so I know that I, as a recovering perfectionist, historically do not like to be, I can't even say it. I do not like being bad at things. I can't even say it in the past tense yet. Tiffany does not like being bad at things. So in the past, I would shy away from things that I was not innately good at. If it was going to take a lot of work, because I have a good capacity for getting up and running on a lot of different things. And so I just learned, if it doesn't come easy to me, I just shouldn't do it and let's move on. And to break that, I've learned to do things to practice being bad at things. So like I took a watercolor class. I have never taken art in my life, and watercolor is apparently really hard. I didn't even know that I picked like the hardest art. But I learned the skill of showing up and doing subpar work and showing up the next week and still showing up and doing it even though it wasn't great. And by the end, I made a cucumber that looked like a cucumber out of watercolor. And like that was 8 weeks of my life. But it was the skill of showing up.
Yes. I had the honor of coaching one of my agents one-on-one a couple weeks ago, and he had asked for a one-on-one with me. And he said, I'm really struggling with some mindset things. 4 years in a row, I've served the same number of families, and I'm just discouraged. So very similar to what we're talking about here, right? So he was discouraged. He wasn't growing. He wanted to grow and wasn't growing and wanted to talk about it. And, I started asking him some questions and to coach him and to try to figure out like what's causing the mindset, what's causing the lack of growth here. And he started telling me about how when he gets assigned an appointment, so our system's a little bit different, but our agents get assigned appointments, okay? And almost every day, right? So we have leads coming in, then we have our inside sales team that are booking appointments, and then our agents get assigned an appointment. And after they go on the appointment, there's a form that pops up on their CRM that says, did the appointment happen? Check yes or no. Okay, did they sign? Check yes or no. And he talked about the anxiety of the form and how what happens is that he agrees to go on an appointment, and when he gets the form and when he has to check no that they didn't sign, he gets so discouraged. So much so that he then emails his leader and says, don't assign me any more appointments. I'm going on impact time, what we call impact time, which is what when you focus on the appointments that you've already gone on. When he said that, I was like, aha. And I explained to him, I said, growth only happens when you push through discomfort. It's absolutely impossible to grow unless you're willing to push through being uncomfortable. And why you're not growing is that you have not been willing to push through. You actually run away from it when it gets uncomfortable. And so we started talking about, okay, you want to double down. When you get uncomfortable, you just know that you're growing because you went on more appointments. Don't focus on the result. Focus on, are you getting uncomfortable enough? And so that's where the practice comes into play. You cannot grow if you don't put yourself in a position of discomfort. So many times, if we're not growing, it's because we get to the uncomfortable level and then we run away. I experienced this in my health. So I carry a lot of weight in my arms and my back, in my upper body. I have actually pretty thin legs for my body size. And so I carry a lot of my weight in my upper body. And I was talking to my circle about this, and Tiffany and Wendy were telling me I really need to work on my triceps because that will help me with my insecurities around my arms. And my husband was telling me the same thing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work on my triceps. And I was doing a workout and they were having us do tricep push-ups, which is when you keep your elbows close to your body. Okay. And I fell flat on my face. I could not hold myself up. I could not. And I felt like a fool, literally. And it came into my mind. The reason I have not been able to overcome this part of my body getting into better shape is because every time that has happened, and that happened about a year ago, I gave up. I stopped. And over the last 4 weeks, I have not stopped. I still look like a fool, but I'm getting stronger every time, and I'm pushing through. But the reason I wasn't growing in that area is because, again, I was running from the discomfort I was having while doing that exercise. And that's just an example. But it's such a reminder to all of us, and it was such a reminder to me that if we want growth, we have to be willing to get uncomfortable. We have to be willing to fail. We have to be willing to literally fall flat on our face and look like a fool. But we did it. We did it. And that's what matters, is that you're doing it.
Yeah. And that's the second thing. So number one, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, kind of like that. Practice being bad at things. And then go practice the actual thing. Because Sarah said she identified that one thing that she needed growth in, and she practiced that one thing. So what is the skill that you need to get better at? Because you've looked at your day, you've looked at the people, and then you've looked at your business and you've said, all right, this is the one thing that is going to move the needle in this part of my life. So for Sarah, she's identified the tricep push-ups for her health. And in your business, your example of your agent, I'm going to keep going on appointments even if I have to click no. That's the skill that I'm going to practice because I'm going to get better at each appointment that I go on. So identify what is the actual activity you need to practice. So be comfortable being uncomfortable. The more you do that in your life, the more likely you are to be able to keep doing those tricep push-ups even when you fall on your face. So love that.
Love it. Okay. So our formula, right? We've got people. So if you're determined to grow, or maybe you've hit a ceiling, what's the fourth P here? Okay. We got people, we got process, we have practice. The fourth P is persistency. Okay. Persistency is so critical to growth because so many times we want to give up, right? We don't want to push through. We want to give up. And persistency in particular with your one thing. So in your business, in your health, in your key relationships, what's the leading domino? What is the sort of like foundational habit that you have to have that leads to all of the growth? So for business, many times it's lead generation and or talent generation, right? If you're missing a person, so you know that you need to go meet with one talented person a week, right? Or if it's lead generation, you know that you need to 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, you need to make your phone calls. Like what is the one thing that is the first domino for growth in your business? And with persistency, not giving up on that one thing and trusting, having faith that the lagging indicator of growth, those sales, that revenue, those agreements, those contracts will happen as long as you're persistent. You don't give up on that one thing, that first domino. So it's critical to growth is persistency.
So here's where I struggle with this one in particular. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So, like for me, I have a key person that I have been looking for in my world for 3 years. Have not found, made a couple of hires, they weren't right. And it feels insane to me to continue believing that this person is going to show up and that I just keep pushing the dominoes. So I'm sure I'm not alone. So you can just coach me, Sarah, and our listeners at the same time on that.
Yeah. So I hear that so much. And I think that that's what I found is that the 4 Ps is a formula and you have to have all of them. So typically when you are consistently doing the thing, so you're consistently making the calls, you're consistently meeting with talent, you're consistently doing the thing, and you're being persistent. And if you still don't have growth, you need to go back to the third P of practice because there's something with a skill that you're missing. So it's what you're saying, it's what you're doing. For example, when I did this exercise for me, and I sort of asked myself a very similar question to what Tiffany's asking.
Am I persistent or am I insane?
Yes, exactly. Am I persistent or am I but I'm doing the thing. Like I am training. I'm coaching my agents every day. This is literally a conversation I was having with myself. Because for me, for my business, training the team on skills and training the team on what to do and training the leaders on holding the team accountable to doing the things is my one thing. Okay. So I'm like, I'm doing the one thing. Like I'm coaching every day. But yet we're still not growing. And it was a big actually wake up call for me because I did feel insane. Like clearly I'm not like, should I just stop training? Should I just stop coaching? And I had a big aha. And my aha was actually pretty recent, but my aha was I need to get better at creating analogies for my team to remember the training. And so I've been studying people and practicing analogies. You actually have heard it on the podcast. And I'm getting better and I'm growing because what I realized is that every time I was teaching, every time I was coaching, I was not giving an analogy that was memorable. So then literally 4 weeks later, I would bring something up and the team would act as if I didn't teach it 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, okay, I need to work on my skill. I need to practice teaching. I need to practice training. I need to practice coaching. So my advice for Tiffany is you need to practice what you're doing in those meetings. You need to be practicing casting a vision that will attract the right person. You need to practice the questions you're asking because you could be doing it, but if you're not doing the third P, if you're not doing the practice, then it doesn't matter if you're doing it if your skills aren't improving. And so all of the formula goes together. You can't have one without the other. So you can't have just persistency. But I know that when you do the 4 Ps, because the end of this story is 6 months later, we're growing again, and Power Home is growing again. And guys, it started with me. It started with the 4 Ps. Like, I got serious about the people I was surrounding myself with. I got serious about my time and the processes and the systems. I got serious about practicing and growing in my skills. And I got serious about my persistency and staying at it. Okay. So when you do all 4, you will grow. You will grow.
I love it. Okay. That is our formula: people, process, practice, and persistency to move you forward in whatever area of your life you want to grow. I love that. If this has been helpful to you, I would ask that you share it with somebody. Maybe you know somebody who loves growth as much as you do. Share this episode. We would greatly appreciate it. And of course, we love 5-star reviews. We love hearing from our listeners. So please make sure to let us know that you are listening. And for the rest of the week, guys, practice your 4 Ps, build that big empire and your even bigger life. Have a great week.
Awesome week, guys. Bye.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning. You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.